Hello folks, Junkie Rock 13 here, everything vaping related, Junkie Rock 13. My real name is Ross Sanders, and today we're going to be taking a look at a new clearomizer from Vision. It is the Vision VT Clearomizer. It is a metal mouthpiece drip tip clearomizer. It's kind of the same design, but a little bit different. Some differences in it. I cannot find my original group or bunch of Vision clearomizers, so I don't have an original Vision to compare up against. But the original Vision is kind of close to the Anoken eye clears, at least in the looks and the designs. So we're going to take a close look at this. I'm going to vape on it, and if I can't get this, if I'm not satisfied with it, I think I'm going to rebuild it and show you how to rebuild the Vision VT Clearomizer. So let's get right to it. See what we got. Okay, so here's the little close-up of the Vision VT Clearomizer. I'm just going to pull in a regular Clearomizer. This is actually the Anoken iClear 16, but the shape and the design is just like the original Vision Clearomizer. Unfortunately, I cannot find any of my original Vision Clearomizers. I have no idea where they are. I must have given them away. But you do have one of these black drip tips, or sometimes they come in colored ones. And they're these little ones that have this little extension, and they make contact with that little rubber insulator there. So the VT Vision Clearomizer is a little bit different. We have the metal mouthpiece, and this actually comes off, and actually the it goes on the outside of the plastic tank there, and it does not have that little post that pushes down onto the rubber insulator. So what they actually have done is take the rubber insulator and bring it up to the mouthpiece. I'm going to take off the plastic tank here. And the plastic tank does have a, it is a polycarbonate or something to that effect. It has the Vision logo there. And on the other side, you can see that it has up to 2 mils of e-liquid. Okay. Now the heads on here are a little bit different than what we're used to seeing. You notice this big, long, let me try and get it off here, rubber insulator here, and there is a little metal what do you want to call it here, a little stopper piece here, and it goes flying across the room, but here it is right here. It's just a little metal stopper section there. And then what you have is the coil head actually has this long extension to reach up to the top of the mouthpiece now. So that's how this differs. I have not vaped off of this yet, and I only have one, so I'm actually gonna fill this up with juice, vape off of it, and if I don't like the coil, I'm actually gonna take it out and rebuild it. So I'm gonna put this back on here, alright, and just take this little rubber piece right here, a little silicone piece, and just put it back down on there. Okay. in this coil, it says 2.4 ohms, but I actually tested it and it's more around 3 ohms, so it's kind of pretty steep. You notice there is 4 thin little strands of silica here, and then down at the bottom we do have some ego threading. So there is no 510 threading, it is going on to an ego threaded device. So I'm just going to put back on this little tank. Oh, put it back on the right way. Make sure them wicks get in there. Okay. And then I'm going to just show you how to fill it. I'm going to take that off to the side. And I'm just going to take some juice that I have here from Juice Mafia. Shake it up a little bit and just fill it off to the side. Now I'm only going to fill it to right about where the wick is coming out. This juice is some Corsican cherry. Okay, just going to put it in here. Bring it right up to where the wick comes out of the coil head there. And then I'll take my little mouthpiece, drip tip, whatever you want to call it, and make sure I don't strip these threads on this plastic tank. And there you go. That's how easy it is to fill the Vision VT. So I'm going to vape it and see what I think, and I will get back to you and see if I have to rebuild this. Okay, so there you have it. There's the close-up on how to fill the new Vision VT, and a little bit difference of the older style Vision Clearomizer. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward on how to fill it. I've actually vaped 2 tanks of e-liquid through this Clearomizer now, and it's not vaping bad. The thing I will say about this Clearomizer is it did say 2.4 ohms on the resistance, and according to my Sigali Z-Max, it is reading at 3 ohms. I also put it on the Provari and it said 3.1. So the resistance is a little bit off. Let me give you a quick vape on it. I have this set at 9 watts. Okay. Now the vape is not bad. I'm not getting any dry hits. Flavor seems to be pretty good. But in my opinion, every time I have rebuilt these Clearomizers in this design, it seems like the vape has been a lot better. This is my opinion. Now you can use this Clearomizer straight out of the package, put it on a device. I don't suggest using a 2.4 ohm resistant VT Clearomizer on a regular standard Ego battery. You will need to use it on a Ego Twist or a Z-Max, something that can bump it up from the regular 3.5 to 3.7 volts that the regular Ego battery gives you. It just seems like it's not pushing out enough vapor. I actually have my Ego Twist right here, and I can set it to what the regular Egos are at, which is around 3.7 watts. Let me just give it a vape. It's kind of muted, not a lot of vapor. Okay, you can notice when I bump it up to around 4.3, 4.4, a lot more vapor, better flavor. It's not a bad Clearo. Kind of looks nice on the Vision or on the Ego Twist. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get back into the close-up mode and I'm going to tear it apart and rebuild that coil for you. Okay, let's get right to it. Okay, so here we go. I'm just going to take this apart and pull in some paper towels because there's still some juice in here, and just take off this coil head. Now I'm just gonna dab the juice off there and put this off to the side for now. Alright, so here we go. First off, on how to rebuild this head, we're going to slide off that little rubber piece and that little metal piece, and we're going to push that off to the side. We will be using that again, so keep that handy. And then what we're going to need to be doing is taking off this little piece. There's a little metal end right here that just pops out. Okay, I just want to show that to you. See what it looks like. Okay, it's just a little metal piece not attached to anything. So we're going to put that back over there. And then there's also a little rubber insulator here. We're going to also take that out as well. And that piece kind of looks like that. Alright, I'm going to place that over with the other parts. And then right here, this wick and coil can just come right out. Alright, now you are going to notice that there's a little insulator here. Me personally, I don't use these, but if you wanted to, you can use these again, but they end up falling apart and deteriorating with the juice. So here's your wick and coil. Like I said, I've only used 2 tanks through it, so it's kind of fresh and new, but we're gonna put a nice new one in there the way I like it. Alright, so you have just the metal tube here. I'm just gonna wipe it down for ease of handling it so it's not slippery. And there is a little O-ring on there. Make sure you don't lose that O-ring on there. Okay? Alright, so what I'm going to do is I have some 3 millimeter, let me just clean this off right here, 3 millimeter silica, and I'm just going to cut a piece of 32 gauge Canthal. Okay, now this piece doesn't have to be this long. I just cut it that long for the video. You can cut it however long you want it to be. Now, depending on how many wraps you wrap this Canthal around your silica will determine the resistance of your coil. Now, I kind of like vaping lower resistance, like around 1.2 to 1.3, in the under 1.5 ohms. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my Canthal, place it in the center of the silica, place it with my finger, and just start wrapping it around the silica. Now this sometimes may be easy for me on camera. If it's your first time doing it, sometimes it's a little bit tricky. The silica kind of bends a lot, so make sure you use your finger as a guide and just wrap it around. Get the coils or the wraps around the silica nice and close together, but not touching each other. You can have them as close as possible without touching. So right there is around 3, almost 4, and we'll go right there. Now that's basically, let me see here, what is that, 4 or 5? Looks like 5 turns around there. Okay, see that? Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I always like to work with one longer and one shorter. So what I did was I cut one of the leads a little bit shorter just because it is easier to put one through this metal piece at a time. So we're just going to take both the leads and push them right down through the center there, and then just feed the silica down them channels. Okay, and then we can pull the leads out through the end. Okay, so now what we need to make sure when we're looking down that tube is that none of these little wraps on the silica are touching this metal tube, because if it's touching the metal tube where they are spun around, it is going to actually short out. So we don't want none of that to short out there. Okay, so what we're going to do is just look down in there, and if they are close to the end, we're just going to slide it over. And if the way we wrapped them is too wide and they are touching, we'll take it back out and make them a little bit closer together. So they look pretty good from here. So I'm just going to take it and flip it over, and you'll notice that one is coming out one end and the other one is coming out the other end. So we're going to grab this little rubber piece that we had taken off earlier, and we're just going to place it over one of them. We're not going to place it over both, we're just going to place it over one. Whether it's the shorter one or the longer one, it does not matter. So once it's placed over one of them, we're just going to push it back into the base of that, okay, of this little threaded piece. And we're going to pull the leads down one more time just in case we push them up at all. So what this is actually doing is now one of the leads is up against the metal housing and the other one is coming down right through the center. Now you want to make sure these leads are not crossing over in here, they're not touching each other in here, or else you will also have it shorting out. So when this is coming down through the middle, this is actually isolated to be the positive wire. This touching the metal housing is isolated to be the negative wire. Now this little metal pin that we took out, we're going to actually put this right back in, right in the center there, and just push it right back in there. Okay, so now this metal pin is going to act as your positive post, and the threads on this metal housing is your negative connection. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually just push down on this metal housing a little bit and twist it until it just snaps off. Make sure it's nice and flush. If there is anything left over, you can take a pair of nail clippers or something really small to clip off any ending there, any little remnants of the wire. Push back down a little bit and just give it a nice little twist, and it should break off nice and flush, but just make sure you want to feel it so it is nice and flush there. Okay, now because we've been moving it around, we still want to make sure that we look down in this tube right here and make sure it's not touching any of the sides again. All right, now we can take our, oops, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Now we can take this little metal cap, and actually before we put that metal cap on, I want to see if it's firing correctly. I wasn't jumping ahead of myself. We're going to put it back in here. We're not going to put any juice in it, and we're just going to see how it looks and how it burns in there. So I'm just going to grab my Z-Max one more time. And just give it a little fire. It's actually reading at 1.8. If you can see that. Okay. And I want to see if you can see if them coils are looking nice in there. If you can look down in there. I'm try to get it nice for the camera. Okay, it's glowing nice and even, and we should be good to go. Now what I'm going to do here is just cut these off right little there. Bring this down to right there, and then just give this one a cut as well. Okay. Now I'm going to take this back off the device. Okay. Put the little metal piece in the top cap there. Oh, let me move it over. Sorry about that. And then take our little piece right here and just slide it down all the way onto there. All right. You could take your tank section, wipe it off the juice, and place it back on there. Feed the wicks. All right. Just straighten out them wicks so they're not like all twisted up. There we go. And the mouthpiece can go back on after we fill it with some more juice. I'm just going to fill it back up with the juice I've been vaping out of it. It's been tasting pretty good in here. Okay. Then we'll just take the mouthpiece, put it back on there, wipe off any remnants of juice, and there we go. There is, keeps on rolling away at me, the totally rebuilt Vision VT Clearomizer. Let's see how it vapes with the rebuilt coil. Okay, so there you go. I apologize for the length of this video. It is very long. I didn't expect to rebuild this coil, but I felt like it was necessary to show you how to rebuild it. And in my opinion, with a rebuilt coil, if you do it correctly, you will get a better vape than when you get the factory coils. Let me give it a quick vape. Like I said, it is at 1.8 ohms, and I still have it set at 9 watts. All right. Great vapor. Seems like flavor's a little bit better. I kind of like rebuilding the coils in these little clearomizers. They come out good. In my opinion, I did test this on the Segully. What you should be testing a fresh coil, is on a mechanical device, something that don't have electronics like the Segully, or even like a regular Ego. There's electronics on here, and if that coil is shorting out, you will fry the switch and the electronics in these devices. So make sure the wires are not touching the ends there. Make sure they're not shorting out. You can always test it on a mechanical device and make sure they're not touching good, and you'll be safer of anything frying out. Just be careful. I don't recommend any beginners doing this. This is for a more advanced vapor, someone that understands electric current and stuff. So that's the Vision VT Clearomizer. You want to check it out? A lot of vendors do have it. I will leave a link down below for a couple vendors, or a vendor that has them in stock. Check them out, the Vision VT Clearomizer. That process of rebuilding can also be used on several other different clearomizers that have the similar coil like that. So be kind to one another and keep on vaping, everybody. Take care.